Disappear from our lives, forever. That's what my parents shouted across the living room, their faces twisted with satisfaction, like they'd been waiting years for this moment. My brother stood behind them, adjusting his tie for his wedding rehearsal, smirking like this was part of the celebration package. The chandelier light flickered, catching in my mother's earrings, the same pair I once saved up to buy her on her birthday. Funny how light can make cruelty sparkle. I didn't beg, didn't cry, didn't even breathe for a moment. Instead, I quietly packed my things. One suitcase, 2 photo frames, and a stack of unpaid bills with my name printed neatly across the top. My father called after me, "Don't come running back when life teaches you your place." The door closed behind me like a final punctuation mark. Hi everyone, my name is Rachel Monroe. I'm 32, and if you think this story is about walking away, wait till you see what I walked toward. What happens when you finally stop trying to be loved and start learning what peace sounds like. That night, I sat in my car parked under a dim streetlight outside my apartment. The city hummed, indifferent and alive, and for the first time I realized indifference could be freedom. I unlocked my phone, scrolled through years of family transactions, and froze the joint account I'd been managing for them, every dollar earned through my endless overtime hours at the firm. By sunrise, the apartment was sold. The agent called to confirm. "You're sure about this, Ms. Monroe?" "Positive," I said. "I don't live there anymore." My mother's text started at 9 a.m. sharp. "Where are you?" "Your brother's wedding is tomorrow. We can't access the funds. Fix this now." Silence can be louder than a scream when you finally mean it. I didn't answer. I just looked out the window at the morning light stretching over the skyline, clean, bright, and new. Somewhere between the echoes of their shouts and the hum of traffic below, I felt something dangerous, something liberating. Peace. And that was only the beginning. By noon my phone was a siren of missed calls. That family group chat. Each notification blinked like an alarm I'd already turned off. I made coffee, slow, deliberate, letting the steam rise against the window. The city outside didn't care about weddings or inheritances. It just kept moving. Maybe that's why I liked it. My mother's voice finally broke through in a voicemail. "Rachel, what did you do?" "The venue deposit bounced. Your brother is humiliated. You've made us look cheap." I almost laughed. Cheap? After 3 years of me paying their mortgage, covering Dad's medication, and loaning funds that were never returned? They weren't humiliated, they were exposed. The betrayal wasn't in their words. It was in their ease. How easily they decided I didn't belong. How easily they weaponized my silence as weakness. I opened my laptop and checked the sale confirmation. Funds transferred. Clean break. I rerouted everything to my new account, the one they didn't know existed. Then I took a deep breath and texted a single line to Mom. "You said I should disappear. I'm just giving you your wish." For a moment I felt a flicker of guilt. But it wasn't guilt for them, it was guilt for still caring. That evening I drove to the beach, parked near the dunes, and watched the sky fold into dusk. A seagull landed near my car, pecking at crumbs left by someone else. It reminded me of my brother, taking what was never his, pretending it was owed. The tide came in slow and steady. The waves didn't ask permission before erasing footprints. Maybe I didn't need to either. My phone buzzed again, this time a message from an unknown number. "You think you can embarrass us like this? You'll regret it." The contact name read, Dad. But beneath the anger I saw it clearly, for the first time they were afraid. The next morning I woke to silence. No more calls, no more messages. Just the soft hum of the refrigerator and the hollow calm that follows a storm. Then came the knock. 3 slow, deliberate taps. When I opened the door, my aunt stood there, wearing a pity smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Your mother sent me," she said, stepping in without being invited. "They just want to talk. You've embarrassed the family enough." Her perfume filled the air, the same floral scent that used to make me sneeze as a child. She scanned my small rented apartment like it was a crime scene. "You're not thinking clearly, Rachel. Freezing that account was cruel." I poured her tea anyway out of old habit. "Cruel," I repeated. "You mean like being told to disappear from my own family?" Her lips tightened. "Your father's blood pressure went up. He's blaming you." I stared at her. "He's been blaming me for years. This is just another reason to make me the villain." She didn't answer. Just sipped the tea I'd poured and muttered, "You've changed." I smiled faintly. Finally. When she left, I walked to the window. Down below, she was already on the phone, reporting every detail, I was sure. That's when I noticed the car. Parked across the street. Same one that had been there yesterday. My pulse quickened. Was I being watched? Or was it paranoia? The kind that grows when you've cut every safety net you once had? I closed the curtains and sat at my desk, opening a new file on my laptop. Evidence. Screenshots. Transfers. Copies of emails where I'd been coerced into helping with wedding funds. If they wanted a war, they'd picked the wrong daughter. And for the first time in years, I wasn't scared of losing them. I was scared of who I was becoming without them. By evening, the black car was gone, but the feeling stayed. That quiet awareness that I wasn't alone. It's strange how silence can feel like footsteps when you've learned to listen to danger. I opened my laptop again. The folder named Evidence was growing. Every file was a reminder. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about control. For years, they'd convinced me that loyalty meant obedience. That family meant financial sacrifice. Not anymore. Around 9 p.m. I got an email from my brother. Subject line, "Fix this before tomorrow." Inside one sentence, "You've ruined everything, Rachel. Dad says he'll make sure you're cut off from every inheritance and blacklisted from your firm." I almost laughed. Blacklisted? They still thought fear worked on me. I typed my reply slowly. "You can't blacklist someone who owns the contract." And I attached a scanned copy, proof that the firm's new client account, the one generating 6 figures, was under my name alone. The same deal my father had once claimed was too complicated for a woman to handle. Minutes later, the read receipt popped up. I imagined his face, pale, furious, maybe even scared. Outside, thunder rolled. Rain began tapping against the glass. I left my phone face down on the counter and stood near the window, watching the water distort the city lights. It looked poetic, like the world itself was washing off their fingerprints from my life. Then another message buzzed. Unknown number again. "Meet me at the church tomorrow before the ceremony. Alone." I knew that tone. It was Mom. For a brief second, I almost said yes, out of that old reflex to fix things, to make peace. But something inside whispered, "They're not calling you to reconcile. They're calling you to surrender." I exhaled slowly and whispered back to myself, "No more." Morning came with a fog so heavy it pressed against my windows like breath. I barely slept, my mind replaying that message. Meet me at the church. The same church where my brother's wedding would happen in less than 2 hours. I made tea, the kind my mother used to brew when she pretended everything was fine. Steam rose from the cup, delicate, calm, and I realized peace didn't come from quiet rooms, but from knowing you finally stopped pretending. My phone buzzed again. "You're destroying your brother's big day." Then another. "Show up. Let's end this with dignity." Dignity? That was rich, coming from people who treated me like an inconvenience for existing. So I got dressed, simple black dress, flat shoes, hair tied back. Not for them. For me. Because sometimes showing up isn't submission. It's confrontation wrapped in grace. When I reached the church, cars lined the street like silver teeth. I parked far enough away to watch without being seen. Through the stained glass, I could see silhouettes, laughter, movement, the glow of chandeliers. My brother stood at the altar, radiant in self-importance. Then Mom appeared at the entrance. Her eyes found me instantly. She stepped out, heels clacking on the pavement, her expression rehearsed somewhere between anger and desperation. "Rachel," she hissed. "You've made your point. Now undo it. The bank called, they're investigating the transfer." I held her gaze. "Let them." For a moment she looked almost frightened. Then she whispered, "You'll regret this. Family doesn't forgive betrayal." I smiled softly. "Then we finally agree on something." A murmur of music drifted from inside as the ceremony began. My mother turned away. I didn't follow. I walked toward my car, each step lighter, each breath less borrowed. They wanted me gone. Now they'd see what gone really looked like. By the time I got home, the wedding bells were probably ringing. But instead of guilt, I felt something else. Clarity. Like static finally tuning into a clear signal. I made myself lunch, played an old jazz playlist, and let the rhythm fill the silence. Halfway through a song, my phone buzzed again. This time not from them but from my attorney. "Rachel, the transfers went through cleanly. You're safe legally. They can't touch your share. I exhaled for the first time in days. I hadn't realized how tight my chest had been holding every word they'd thrown at me over the years. Selfish, dramatic, ungrateful. They weren't words anymore. They were ashes. Still, a strange ache lingered. Because even when you free yourself, the chains leave marks. Out of curiosity or maybe closure, I opened social media. My brother's wedding photos were already up. Captions about family unity and new beginnings. And there was my absence. A perfect family portrait with one missing piece. Me. The comments told a story of their own. Where's Rachel? Mom replied, she's no longer part of this chapter. It hit me harder than I expected. Not anger this time. Just a quiet realization. They were rewriting me out of their story. But what they didn't know, I'd already started writing my own. That evening I drafted an email to my firm's board. Effective immediately, I'll be moving our upcoming expansion project to a new division, under my direct management. Details attached. A few hours later, I received replies filled with congratulations. And one from the CEO. You've earned this, Rachel. It's time everyone saw what you're capable of without anchors. I closed my laptop, looked around my quiet apartment and smiled. For the first time, silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like proof. The following morning, sunlight spilled across my desk, gold and clean, like a reset button pressed by the universe. I sat with my coffee, scrolling through the flood of new emails. Most were work-related. But one stood out. Subject: you think you won? It was from my brother. You've humiliated us. Dad's business partners are asking questions. Mom won't stop crying. But guess what? We're filing for a legal claim. You'll be exposed for fraud. I read it twice, then again. Not because I believed it, but because I wanted to feel nothing while reading his threats. And I did. Nothing. Just that serene kind of stillness that follows when fear finally leaves your system for good. I forwarded the email to my lawyer. His response came in minutes. They have no legal ground. You have full proof of every transaction. Keep documenting. Don't engage. So I didn't. Instead, I opened my evidence folder again, now thick with files, receipts, texts, and voice memos. Every manipulation neatly archived. Every emotional bruise with a timestamp. Around noon, I drove downtown to meet with a journalist friend, Ava. She specialized in family finance exposes, the kind that went viral for showing how wealth was built on quiet exploitation. We sat across from each other in a small cafe. Are you sure you want this public? She asked. I nodded slowly. Not for revenge. For clarity. People need to see what financial abuse looks like when it wears pearls and smiles. She exhaled, then tapped her recorder on. Tell me everything. And I did. The entire story, from the first help your brother out, to the last disappear from our lives. Her eyes darkened as she listened, and when I finished she whispered, they won't see this coming. Outside, rain started again, soft, rhythmic cleansing. By the time I got back to my car, I wasn't just walking away from them anymore. I was walking into something new. A week later, the article went live. Title: The Hidden Cost of Family Loyalty. Front page. My name in full. My story finally unmuted. Within hours, it spread, reposts, shares, comment threads lighting up with strangers saying, this was my family too. Some called me brave. Some called me cold. But none of them called me invisible anymore. The first call came from my brother. I didn't answer. The second from my father. Straight to voicemail. Finally, Mom texted. You've destroyed us. Are you happy now? I typed for a long moment, then replied. No. I'm finally peaceful. Then I blocked her number. That evening I walked to the beach, the same one I'd driven to the night I froze their account. The tide was low this time, the sand glistening under the fading sun. I stood there letting the wind push strands of hair across my face and thought of the irony. They told me to disappear and I did. Just not in the way they expected. They thought disappearing meant losing. But for me it meant rediscovering. A child nearby was building a sandcastle, carefully placing shells along the walls. I smiled, remembering how I used to do the same and how Mom would call me back inside before it was finished. This time I stayed until the child completed it. Watching something fragile finally last felt poetic. When I got home I opened my journal and wrote. Freedom doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it sounds like the quiet hum of a fridge in a small apartment where no one's shouting your name. Sometimes it looks like your own reflection, calm, unshaken, whole. Outside, thunder rolled again, far away this time. I closed the journal, turned off my phone, and whispered a quiet goodbye, not to them but to the version of me who kept trying to earn love that should have been freely given. The chapter wasn't revenge. It was release.